starting it right from the
No computer.
from the cloud. He's starting from the cloud.
I'll have to turn around.
Gotta turn around.
It's like Amazon.
Crane your neck over. He's got a tripod at least.
I think that'll be fine for today.
Hi.
Like to call to order the Town of Rocky Hill Planning and Zoning meeting, regular meeting for Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. The first thing on the agenda is a public hearing, but because this agenda is amended, the applicant has requested continuance to October 16th, 2024, so we will not be opening the public hearing for Rockamora Acquisitions LLC. Going on in our agenda, we're gonna call to order the meeting and look for public comment.
On anything that's not.
And this public comment is for anything that is not on the agenda.
No comment.
Seeing none, motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. You want to just
Yeah, we all.
announce who's here, even though there's only four?
Sitting for this meeting is Commissioner Hussey, Commissioner Lecco, myself, and Commissioner Morhurst. Agenda items, we're gonna go out of order since A is not valid in this agenda, so we're gonna skip over A, and we're gonna go to B, site plan.
If I may,
Oh,
Mr.
yep.
Chairman, the applicants are not present at this time, and it could be due to the room change.
Okay.
So I would ask that we continue on to the pre-application, which is a discussion between a possible applicant and the commission and staff only. Keep in mind, for the purpose of the record, that anything stated on the record is non-binding on a possible applicant. It is also non-binding on the commission. The commission cannot say to a possible applicant, we love this application, you come in, we'll approve it or we'll deny it. They can't say that, but they can certainly ask you questions and ask for more clarification. And based upon that, a possible applicant may decide to, move forward with an application. So it's strictly a discussion between the people currently in this space.
Do we have to vote to go out of order, or we can just go out of order?
I would amend the agenda.
I'll make
Okay,
a motion to amend the agenda, put item B above item A.
Or do you wanna put C?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Item C above item B.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And who seconded that? Stephen? Thank you.
You want to just make a comment that woman is here for
Just for anybody in the public who's just joined, we are not hearing the public hearing on Rockamora Acquisitions tonight. It has been moved to October 16th. I requested the applicant. So just make sure you know. With that, we are on agenda item C, pre-application, 100 to 200 Laurel Lane LLC and 748, 750 Old Main Street LLC for discussion purposes. A possible zone change from R20 to TC Town Center and a possible development proposal to add a two-story apartment building with 12,583 square feet per floor with 41 bedroom apartments, 10% of these to be deemed affordable, and to convert the office building at 750 Old Main Street to 34 apartments with at least 6 of them being live workspaces on the first floor and 28 being in one bedroom, 10% of these deemed affordable, for property located at 100, 200 Laurel Lane and 748, 750 Old Main Street in an R20 residential district, ID 10-221 and 10-218 respectively.
Point of order.
Okay.
I'm afraid we'll be doing this all night. If you want to make it an announcement that
Further-
item A has been canceled or postponed.
Before we start on this agenda item, I just want to make sure everybody in the public knows that the public hearing for Rockamore's acquisitions on 1093 New Britain Avenue has been requested a continuance to October 16th, so we will not be hearing anything about that tonight. Just. No. Submit, yes.
You- If you want to submit comments, you can submit them to me. I am staff, I am not the commission.
We
You
just
cannot
can't
do that
talk
on the
about it.
record, but you can give it to me.
Nothing verbal.
If you're walking around.
October 16th.
It's so.
Nothing tonight, and if you want any correspondence, speak directly to Ms. Ritchie. Thank you.
And for those that entered the room, we are taking the agenda items out of order. We're going with agenda item, because of the timing and the confusion with the room space. So we're using item C first and then going back to item B. So, okay.
Thank you for your patience.
I don't know if this is working. Working? Okay. My name is Michael Bowe. I'm an architect. My address is 19 Tioga Street, Torrington, Connecticut. And I'm here presenting these plans tonight. What we're looking at doing is doing a zone change and then a possible build out of another building on the property if we can merge the two properties. Currently, what you have is a building up here off of Old Main, which is really right across the street. And then back behind it, there's two apartment buildings. So this front lot composes of a small house and the two buildings. And then again, the two apartments in the back, which are zoned as R20. We'd like to merge this all to be in the town center district. And what happens at this point in time is that there is an entry off of Laurel Lane for the apartments, and there's an entry adjacent to the existing office building and double exits out, and entry between the office building and the single-family home, which is an office. And what we're hoping that we can do is to merge this, create one-way traffic, which was through the site for the fire department to give them access to the buildings back here, and also add a new building in here. We're able to keep the 75-foot perimeter against the residential areas for buffer. And we've created kind of a little common area in the center here. It closes up the gapping of the street, so it becomes more of a uniform streetscape. And we're providing parking for the apartments in the back of the buildings and in the front here.
You do have in your packet, you do have a written description of a possible project that would come before you, should the possible applicant decide to proceed. And you also have the plan that Michael is speaking to.
Right, and basically this is the building that we're looking at having the live workspace in. And these are the two existing, and then this would be the new apartments.
Question? Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes. Do you want to say anything, Mike?
Okay. Oh, go ahead, yeah. Just need your name and address for the record, please.
And the microphone?
You need a microphone.
Oh, yep.
My name's Michael Fabiano. I'm one of the principals at 750 and 100, 200 Laurel Lane. We held the property about 10 years. The residents there are primarily older people. The rents have been held lower than what they should. They're below market. Our thoughts are to put up the new building, move a lot of the local residents into the newer building, rehab the two existing buildings, and convert the office building into like loft-type apartments, and put like young starting business professionals in there, somebody who wants to be a therapist or a chiropractor and can't afford to not have a job and start a business, or they're working someplace, so that there can be some work out of the homes. It's gonna have to be controlled, but it's something that I got involved with in probably 1974, 1975, during the regentrification of God's Desperate 100 Acres, which is now known today in New York as Soho. And then it went down into NoHo and Tribeca and all that. So I lived through that whole period of time in the city. It gave a lot of opportunity to a lot of people. So the plan is sort of to try to create that opportunity, but I don't want to displace the residents. So they would be moving from larger apartments. So we have 1 and 2 bedroom apartments over there, like 1,200 square feet. They would be moving into smaller apartments, you know, new fixtures, new ceilings, walls, sheetrock. And once they move out of the existing, then we can regentrify the existing. So the project might take a little while, but it's probably the nicest way to do it. There are other ways to get involved with it, and usually when different type developers come in, the only thing they have in their mind is making money. Obviously, I need to make money and I need to pay for the job. There's no question about that. But we don't need to hurt people at the same time. I've done this before in other communities, not with apartments, but with like medical buildings and stuff, where I've gone in and rehab obsolete medical buildings and put people in them. And we have one in Torrington now that probably 13, 12, 13, 12, about 12 years ago we did that one. And that got a lot of coverage in town, and it got to the point where they were looking, the town was looking to actually donate buildings to me to go in and do the same process.
So since this is a pre-application, those are the kind of things that you would want to talk at your actual application time. We're not, this is just an information session for both
Right,
parties
right.
on this. And I just want to make sure you know that, you know, we can't really say yay or nay, or
Right,
so you don't have to sell
for.
us now on the process. And we just want to let you know that that's good material for when the actual plan comes before us.
Just the concept. is what-
Yeah, we're just talking, you know,
In a general
yeah, a
sense.
pre-application is basically you asking us what we think, and then we telling you what you should be doing as part of the application process, but it's not binding, so
Right,
we
right.
can't really give you any opinions. We appreciate the narrative and what you were saying, but I just want to make sure that you know that something like that should also be brought up in the site plan application.
Okay. I guess my thoughts for coming here were to get a read on, some towns are in the process of wanting to develop, and some towns are not. There are still a few around that have not jumped on board. What I really want to know is the town's position on, they're looking to grow the town, I would think.
That's something that we don't give a position, we just, the application's before us, and we just look at the application and the merits of the application. So that is kind of more of a vision when we look at our plan of conservation and that kind of thing. But every application is judged on the application and not the vision. The vision is given to us through our POCD. So with that, I mean, we love to just throw it out to the commissioners. If you guys are done with your presentation, if we can ask some questions and maybe have a dialogue that way. Would you rather do, let's do that?
Sure.
So let's start with Commissioner Morris. Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments?
Just a clarification, is part of this property that you're planning on building upon,
Excuse me?
is part of this property that you're planning to build on?
Yes.
Is that an R20 right now?
Yes,
Okay, so there would have to be
a zone change in that area of the
Yeah,
property.
okay, that's,
And
and,
that's in the paperwork that was provided to you as part of the pre-app.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, get out of the way. Now I can see it,
Yeah, we could,
Plus, you have the
Okay.
plans in your packet also.
yeah, but the two buildings that are there, you're gonna keep them?
There are actually 4 buildings on the property right now, on
Right.
the 2 properties.
Right, the two at the bottom of the picture, which I don't know which is north or south. Yeah, okay, and those other two buildings are town center?
Town center, yes.
Okay,
So what we want to do is merge the two properties. We facade. So I have this big gap between units, looks like a parking lot there.
Okay, we can't get into much of the guts of this yet, because we don't have a real application, we just have the basic idea of what you're hoping to do, so that, I guess that's all the questions I have then.
Commissioner Lecco?
Yeah, so your town center, 750 Old Main is town center.
Correct.
Right? And the two existing apartment buildings are 20, and you want them to be part of town center. Just curious, in your analysis, why not keep the R20 for that, for those buildings and not make them
Well,
town center?
can we ask that question because it's not a site application?
Well, well, they're coming in, it's under here also to talk about the zone, a possible zone change.
Okay, so we can.
So,
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not on the agenda.
It's all part of the it's all part of the pre-app.
It's part of the pre-application
It's
package.
just clarification.
Yeah, no,
You
I
know,
want to make sure.
But we
have.
have,
Yeah, right.
we have that idea, but we can't decide.
Well, you're not
We're not,
deciding,
yeah.
not deciding yea or nay, nor can you.
No.
Okay.
just trying to
But
get
you
a-
can certainly ask questions. Keep in mind your questions or your reactions are non-binding and their responses are also non-binding under state statute.
Right.
Basically, what we're doing is because we have this building spanning the two properties, and that makes your setback lines go away between these two properties. So that's the purpose for it. Otherwise, we're stuck with setback for this area and for this area.
Okay, yeah, I understand now. Okay, I wasn't aware that was the boundary there. Are any of those units on the bottom affordable, designated, deed restricted as affordable
Right now.
right now?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay,
But most of them are below.
You have to talk into the.
you gotta
mic.
talk in the mic. 'cause-
For the record, you have to.
Yeah.
You guys can just, you can stand back there and you guys can just
Stand
talk
next
into
to
the
each
mic.
other and share.
Or you
yeah.
can stand at the lectern if you want.
It's being
In
recorded.
the existing units, I think that there are rents that are below affordable.
Right, but
Okay.
not necessarily deed restricted as such?
No, I don't believe so. There's no like Section 8 or HUD financing or anything that would restrict us to affordable units in there. But I think they're substantially below.
Okay. Are you thinking of changing the facade on 750 Old Main?
I think what we were looking for was a read of whether or not we should make the next step and develop this project so we could do a formal presentation. There's gonna be time and money invested into doing that. That'll also maybe dictate to what's gonna happen with the existing buildings in there and what I'm gonna do with the apartments.
Right.
Usually when you try to do a rehab, you're gonna lose a large percentage of people. And you're gonna misplace a large percentage of people. You can't go in and do one apartment at a time and do 6 apartments a year. I mean, you either have to go in and do it or not. So that means I have to empty a building to do this. So I gotta, lose 20 tenants. There's better ways to handle it. In my mind, the better way is to add the building, move people, and then go on to the next part of the project, okay? So, I mean, displacement is probably, 35% of the people in the units there.
Okay. Nothing else?
Commissioner Hussey.
A question for you on 748. That is 748, that's under your ownership, is that correct? or
Yes,
what?
that's an existing cottage on the property. I think there's a chiropractor in there.
Okay,
I mean, it's a small space, about 500 square feet or so.
Square feet,
But
yeah.
that's where the live work comes into it.
okay.
He has patients, 6 hours a day, 4 hours a day.
But it's all part and parcel of your entire area? Okay. And I think you had said you were looking at about a 50-foot buffer, is that correct? 50 foot?
We have 75-foot buffer around the perimeter.
Just take a look. I don't know if it's 75, but just take a look. Just verify
Don't need the
that.
microphone.
I don't think it's 75, but just double check on that one.
50.
50 is the
Correct.
buffer.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just wasn't sure. I know you mentioned the buffer, and then you had that one-story building, which is inside of that buffer. area. Just curious. And I'm assuming Laura Lane is private because it just utilizes
Yes.
your project, correct? All set, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're all on the same page. We have special objectives when it comes to the town center in our regulations, page 58, page 59, and page 60. So those are the kind of, if and when you guys do an application, will be governed by these. And so just make sure you hit on all these points when you guys come for an application. Pedestrian orientation, mixed uses, facades, signage, parking, shared parking, you know, all this stuff, we're gonna ask about it, and we're gonna want, to look at it, because, the town center was built for a purpose. It was built for mixed use, it was built for pedestrian friendly, you know, bike friendly, creating a vibe down here in this area. One of the things that you don't have to, you're not gonna, I don't want you to answer it now, but one of the things that we would be looking at as a commission is, since you're gonna be adding that space from R20 into the town center district, the scope of your ownership changes, so we would look at the mixed use part of it and make sure that it's not a small mixed use versus a large residential component. We want a happy balance there. So just make sure you look at that. We're gonna ask, well, we would ask, to show us, like, what are you gonna do for the business component versus what you're gonna do for the residential component. You explain the residential component perfectly to us. We're gonna wanna know about the business type of component, like, what are you're thinking about, you mentioned, like, chiropractors, massage therapists, those type of thing. Make sure you make that part of your presentation, because that is what we look at, and we're governed by these, what we talked about when we built the town center district. So any type of renderings on how it would look on street side, those type of things, you know, like you were saying, a facade. Yeah, we're gonna want something that blends into the town center district. Whatever that means to you, that's up to you. You have to tell us what you think it is. What we think it is versus what you think it is, that hopefully we'll meet at application process. But these are the things we're looking at. And then another thing that this commission is, you talked about affordable housing and everything else. You only mentioned affordable housing in the stuff that you're doing for renovation, but since you're gonna be adding those two buildings to the town center zone, we would look at the number as a combined number rather than an individual building number. So for example, you're only adding 30 units, so your affordable housing number is based on 30 units. We would be looking at it, you have 100 units, your affordable housing number would be based on those units, because you're bringing them all together now into one project. I'm not saying that, we're gonna say, we're gonna be nitpicky and everything else, because we are mandated that we want affordable housing in this town, and we are happy that you are gonna provide it as part of your project. But one of the things that we would be looking at is the scope, and obviously, the more the better for us, because this town needs affordable housing, and we would be looking at that number. I'm not telling you what the number is, because that's your number to tell us, but the more the better for us. And just how it would fit into the town center. You talked about, the little park there and everything else, but then what are the connections? How are you gonna bring this project into the walkability, the bikeability, just the feel and the look of the town center? We did a lot of effort for the town center, and we wanna just make sure it just coincides with all that effort that we did. Other than that, it seems very straightforward. Those are the kind of the low-hanging fruit we look at when it comes to town center projects. And as far as the zone change, yeah, it's just follow the rules and bring it to the application. I mean, Kim, I don't know if you have any other comments outside of
Well,
what things that we
even-
look for in a site plan
Even,
application.
even in our regulations, we do have a section that goes into what the commission's criteria is, as far as, okay, I don't mind. They have a section in the regulations as far as criteria for zone change applications, so you should be taking a look at that. And as the plans get more, should you decide to apply, I would ask that you give me a call and we set up a meeting once again with the team with all those details before you apply.
Okay. Thank you. One question I had for you, when you started out, we were talking about the commercial and the residential.
Are you talking into the
Oh,
mic?
we were
Yeah.
talking, you had
Okay.
mentioned commercial and residential. When we started to go through the regulations, we were not able to come up with like a square footage calculation of one versus the other. The commercial requirement was not stipulated, and, right now, we're talking about, I think, in the 750 building, taking primarily the first floor of that building and doing small shops. But the small shops are really gonna be like a medical background type situation. It's not gonna be like
Yeah,
knickknacks.
We
you
look
know.
for a mixed use. The scope, I think you just need to work with staff for scope purposes. Kim and her staff, and the town staff, can tell you where you probably should be or what's a happy number when it comes to that.
Okay.
I can't really tell you a definitive number where you need to be, just because every application is different and we don't have a governing number. But I would work with staff on that, because they have the best knowledge of what should be happening.
They could guide you very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why she's here.
And actually, that was done on purpose in the regulations, to not put a specific number, because depending on what you're doing on your project and the type of units you're having may dictate the types of non-residential uses that you would put in that particular
We
development.
definitely know that we don't want all residential. We want a mixed use
Mixed,
component to
right,
it. That was the governing
serve-
factor for
yeah.
it, so.
Yeah, in order to create the pedestrian foot traffic, in order to create the bikeability. So you may want some small retail, some specialty retail, or maybe a coffee shop, that type of thing, coffee shop, what have you. In addition to, yes, you have some personal service uses there as well.
Okay.
But we'll
We'll
chat.
work on it.
And then the normal things on a site plan, landscaping, lighting, everything cut off, photometrics, all the things having to do with a site plan are still valid as this, yeah.
Civil engineer
Yeah.
the project, also landscape architect.
Yeah. So but otherwise, I mean, it seems like a straightforward project, and outside of all of us kind of went through it, and you have our comments, so, obviously, we can't say if it's a yay or nay or whatever it is, but, whatever you guys decide, good luck.
Our regulations are online, and as I say, should you decide to go forward, I would certainly ask that you sit down with staff. We would get the fire marshal involved, engineering, myself, and we get a few, our
Okay.
economic development people involved.
Do you have any timing in mind?
Well-
You're gonna be back next month?
Okay, the only timing I have is, based on my feelings from this meeting, I would be bringing a site engineer in to start to look at groundwater and all the necessary things. So, once we start moving these parts around on the parcel, we have some direction of what we should be doing and not doing. I don't wanna create a plan that we come back with. We like the plan, but the water doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, we sort of have
I'm
to.
just curious.
Just keep in touch with staff, they'll give you the timing of what you need and when to apply and when to get, what meeting you'll be on, if you choose to apply.
Because we'll need the complete set of drainage computations.
Right.
The renderings, as was mentioned by our chairman, lighting plan, landscaping plan, landscaping table, so, yeah, utilities. So
Okay, well,
we'll need a full,
you're probably gonna get used to us on email.
that's fine, not a problem.
Thank you for coming in, appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time.
Moving over to agenda item B. Site plan landscaping modifications, Rocky Hill Gateway LLC proposing several modifications to landscaping throughout the project known as Kelson Row, including but not limited to caliper size, quantity of plantings located at 2418 Main Street in the Town Center zoning district ID 10-184.
Hello, my name's Jason Morehouse. I'm a landscape architect with SLR Consulting. So we're here today seeking a landscape modification for Kelson Row. You should have received the updated landscape site plans as well as a short narrative just describing the changes. I'll walk you guys through those today. So first up, we have one tree species we would like to switch. We were proposing pin oaks within the parking lots. We'd like to switch it to a red maple, just a better tree, more urban, less maintenance. You don't have to worry about acorns falling on your cars. But we'd keep the caliper size the same. We were proposing 3-inch. We'd use 3-inch for the red maples as well. That's the only species change we had on the site plan. We do have 9 species we'd like to change the caliper size if possible of. Inside the narrative, I added a list of the trees previously approved size and what we'd like to switch to. We would like to switch to 2-inch caliper for the majority of the 9 species. It's just more readily available right now, and given the site, the construction of the site, it's being phased, so as the plantings are going in, they kind of have to establish pretty quickly. We found that just using a slightly smaller caliper size just gives them a better chance of survival. They can establish a little quicker. They're not as mature, and it just worked a little better, so that's what we were hoped to accomplish here. All the trees, species, caliper size changes are located on the interior of the site, none to the border or the frontage. It's just all the interior landscaped areas. And then the third item, as part of this landscape modification, we would like to selectively reduce the plantings along the buffer. We chose areas where there's already a vegetated buffer between the properties existing. Mainly the changes are to the east and north along the plan. There's also a 6-foot-high vinyl privacy fence that we're installing along the entire property until about the south border here where there's an existing fence we're tying into. Any areas of high sensitivity, so along the southern area where there's more residential properties, single family, we didn't touch anything. We don't want to switch anything. And then all the caliper sizes, we were remaining the same. We weren't going to switch them, just reducing the overall quantity slightly. I believe it was 56 total trees over the previous application approval. 33 of those were out along the buffer, and then there was a few selective throughout the interior. But the buffer, the main reduction is along this eastern border, and then slightly on the north where we spread them out. And then the last item is we changed the quantities of specific foundation shrubbery and perennials and grasses on the interior. More so the quantities of the different species. We increased the overall quantity by 300, but the selective varieties did switch up from the previous approval. So we wanted to make you guys aware of that. And other than that, those were the 4 items that were part of this landscape modification.
Staff has some comments?
I don't know, have you reviewed the plant material type and minimum size in section 7D35?
We did.
Okay, concerning the caliper?
The caliper size,
Okay,
we know the 2-inch is below that, so we were hoping that there could be a exception or modification to that overall caliper size.
the problem I had, I discussed this with our zoning enforcement officer, Ben Winter, also. The wording states, unless otherwise specifically indicated elsewhere in the regulations, all plant materials shall meet the following minimum size standards. In discussing it with Ben, there would be a need for zoning variances, believe it or not,
Okay.
for caliper size, if that's what you wish to do
Okay.
at this time. I know landscaping is typically the last thing you do.
Correct.
If you wanted to do that, there would be time. It obviously, variances are granted based upon hardship, and typically they relate to the land, and I know I'm not saying anything new. The land and the regulations, but,
Yes.
that said, there are provisions in the regulations with respect to buffers, and the commission has the ability to waive certain things up to a maximum of 20%. So that's the buffer issue, but the caliper issue, I think, is something that we would need to either have some modifications on the request,
Okay.
or at least,
Understood.
Consider that.
A more form. Okay.
Maybe, I don't know if they wish to table that and discuss it with the client, or however you wish to do that.
That would probably be something I'd have to take up with the ownership and see
Yeah.
what they would like to do to move forward.
Yeah.
But now that I know that that is a requirement, that I'll see what they say. Yeah. Understood.
Now that we're talking about that and they're gonna go back, do we field other questions from the commission about this, or
I would, well, if there's
Let's
any
get it
other
all out,
questions,
or-
I would get
Commissioner Lefferts,
whatever
any questions?
comments or questions you have on the record, so that way,
The question I have is, you're reducing the density along that side there, because less trees. That's because there's trees there now, or, I mean, is what I'm seeing on this aerial, those trees, are those staying, or?
Yeah. So I mean, you could see that this is a newer aerial with the site cleared. So anything green, it's not changing. We're not touching anything.
Okay.
We were actively conscious in trying to maintain the buffer along the east and the north, and keep as much as we could. Just one, it's better to keep existing, and two, it's a little cheaper to not have to.
So it's more,
build it
of
back.
an infill where there aren't.
Yeah,
trees.
so like if you could see here, it's kind of thin here. So we did keep exactly what was there previous. We didn't change it at all. But over here, behind these are garages. There is a pretty good slope down to this property. There's an existing buffer here. We already have we're going to have the privacy fence. So we thought, hey, maybe this is an area where we could reduce and not inhibit, the screening that the neighbors will get. So we tried to do it as selectively as we could. Over here, we knew, it's a high area sensitivity. Don't touch it. Just leave it the way we had it. But over here, again, this is a thicker existing woodland. So, and there's a large slope, walls. So the fence, we thought we could reduce the number in those areas.
Okay.
That was our thinking.
So what are the changes for the perennials and the grasses? I didn't see a specific species change from this to that. You mentioned that?
Yeah, I do just have the quantities from what was previously approved to what. There was previously 2,842 shrubs, perennials, and grasses. and now we have 3,137 shrubs, perennials, and grasses. We didn't add any species or take any species away. It was more of just the quantities within there.
Oh, so the species are the
Shifted.
same?
Yeah, they're the same.
Oh,
Nothing
okay. I'm
changed. It,
sorry,
it was just
misunderstood.
like, instead of having 50 grasses here, we put 30 grasses here so we can have a different shrub over here.
I see.
It wasn't any size or species changes.
Okay.
And it's all the foundation interior to the site, not anything on the borders or the frontage.
Right. Nothing else from me?
Commissioner Hussey.
Jason, just one quick question on the, obviously with zoning variances, you have to go through that, but the, as far as the trees or the caliper sizes, approximately how many are you looking at changing there? I mean, my eyes aren't as good as they once used to be, and your chart is kind of
Understood.
small, so I don't, do you have a number?
There's 56.
56 total, or is it, on your, I believe it was 9 or 10?
It's not 56. Hold on.
Yeah, 56.
109 total trees
109 trees in your
of
list,
the 367 trees.
of the ones that you're looking to change.
Or we would be looking to change, yes. Should have added that previously, but.
Okay, and you don't see any other areas on site? Again, I know you're gonna be faced with ban and zoning variances, and you have to do what you have to do, but you don't see any other areas to compensate? Obviously, going down is a substantial savings for you and the owner. Is there any other areas that can compensate for that?
So we did go down in the total number. We went up in the total number of shrubs and
Yeah,
grasses and
you got
perennials.
300.
We know it doesn't fully offset it, but we were trying to offset it a little bit at least. Infilling, we added shrubbery and some of the interior parking islands along, where else did we add? Like, say, surrounding the trash and, you know, some of the more utilitarian areas, we tried to add some shrubbery too. That was our main offset of what we were trying to beautify the interior for the residents a little more, to offset as much as we could.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well said.
Commissioner Mohurst.
Just curious, what is the rationale behind this? Why are you making these changes or requesting them?
So we were owner-driven changes, but we did agree with getting species. Well, for the species change, that was more of just a need. The oaks just weren't going to do well in their situation. The smaller calipers, it's a little easier to get the material at the time, and we do need a pretty large quantity of trees, so that was one factor. The buffer change, obviously a cost item, but also we had them really packed in, and these trees do get fairly large when they're mature, and we thought that by spreading them out a little bit, especially along this edge, we could get a better buffer, 2-3 years down the line. Then when they're crammed together, you get a lot of burnout, and the undersides of the trees, they get, thin, and you start to see through them a little more. So we wanted to try to spread them out a little bit, and utilize buffer that's already there to kind of work with what we're adding to help.
Are the lines of trees, are they going to be thinner or thicker?
That we're proposing?
Yeah, compared to what is already on the plan.
Thinner a lot thinner in this area, and then thinner in this area, but relative, it's not a whole lot different.
But different,
But thinner, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because you mentioned on the, if your thing was turned north.
Yeah, it's a very annoying.
Okay, that's north. On the south
This
side,
is
you
south.
mentioned residential, but there's residential on the
Yes.
east side and
Yes.
the north side also. More residents than you have you've got 3 or 4 houses on the south side.
Yes,
You've got dozens of residents on the east side and the
Agreed.
north. So
while they do
that
have
shouldn't
more,
be
we,
dismissed.
for sure, but we also have an existing buffer that we're trying to utilize. We're over on the south side. They do more towards to the east, but it does get pretty thin, sort of in these areas. So that was, and obviously nothing there, so
Yeah.
we were trying to keep that.
Okay, I just want to get an idea of what it's going to be like compared to what it was originally proposed.
Agreed.
And apparently, you're saying it's going to be thinner.
It is in the mainly in this area, yes.
Okay.
It would be. It will be thinner with what we propose, but overall won't be because the existing buffer that's there with the fence, it's kind of double, you're doing double duty by putting a ton of proposed plantings in that area.
And I'm getting the feeling that this is cost-driven more than appearance or,
It's both. It is obviously there's a cost savings to it. You put in less. We did try to offset it by putting more within the property for the residents, but it's kind of moving things around
okay, that's all, because you'll be back, I presume. We're not going to,
for the calipers. Yes,
yeah. So
it seems that way. Yes.
that's all I have for tonight.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is the buffer to both on the north and on the east. At application time, we primarily heard from those residents on the north and the east about light, buffering, noise, everything having to do with landscaping, and now you're gonna be taking it away. And I have a huge concern with that. The caliper of it, I mean, I get it. I understand why you're doing that. Species, I like red trees, they're fine. As far as adding inside to beautify the inside, thank you very much. But I have a concern, usually with trees absorb water, and water's always been a concern going that way on the eastern side. I know that you guys have made dramatic changes to slopes and how water moves on the site, but sometimes perception is reality to those residents who've been fighting it for years. So that would be my biggest concern, if and when you come back. I think that eastern border needs to be addressed more than that northern border. The northern border, you seem to be very consistent in your plantings, but on that eastern border, there seems to be a lot less than what was during the site plan. And I think I have a problem with it. Just because out of all the comments that came out of that site plan application, they came from that area. They came from those residents, and we're just looking out. We understand why you're doing it. We understand, the ramifications of it. But if you could just look at that eastern border as you look at the caliper sizes and everything else, that would go a far way to getting this thing pushed through.
Okay.
I don't have any more comments.
There were other issues that came up, and I did talk to Harrison Levy, a representative from Belfonte Companies today, and I did say I'd bring it up. And I know this is not on you, but I'm just saying if.
He told me.
Okay, I told him to kind of give you the heads up. We've continued to receive noise complaints, and I'm just bringing it up more for the commission's sake. We continue to receive noise complaints on a regular basis about work being performed outside the hours of our noise ordinance. So whether it be fortunate or unfortunate, I do live in town, so I do have the ability to appear at some very odd hours in front of construction sites or so, and I do that. I've been out at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. This is more like 6:30, so that's good. So I will appear at random times and just investigate to make sure they're valid because no one's willing to do an affidavit. So I will be doing that. So we've gotten that. We've also had reports of working on national holidays, which you can't per the,
That's not part of this, though.
pardon?
That's not part of this. This is an application to,
I know, but she
No,
has comments. to
I
the
have
applicant.
comments that,
well,
yeah, for
the applicant
and-
that
and
should
we-
be here
we
is
un-
not here tonight.
Well, we have an applicant's representative, so that's fine. And they were aware that this is coming up. I met with them today.
okay.
So I'm just getting it on the record for the commissions. Yep. So we have that as well. And then there were some truck washing for construction workers from that site, tracking onto the road and dust issues. So the owner is aware of it, applicant's aware of it, so we'll be inspecting accordingly, so.
Yeah, the owner, when he found out about it, he'll be on site tomorrow to talk to the contractor, make sure those things are remedied.
Not to minimize your position with this organization of the property, but it would be good to have someone other than you when you do wind up coming back,
Yes, I
so
agree.
that these things can be addressed. And
Yep.
not you just be a messenger. I don't mean to sound like,
That's fine by me.
I know
Well,
you're,
I met with the representative.
you're stuck in the middle.
Today, so we were meeting on actually signage for emergency services and directory signs on the inside of the property, so.
So, question to staff, is there, do we have to create a motion because there's additional work? Is there a motion to table that we're looking for here for the next meeting, or what's
thinking-
procedurally, what do we need?
Well, unless the caliper size is gonna change, I mean, outside of any caliper changes, I mean, you could act on the other changes, that's up to you, or you could table the item to the
I'd like
next.
to table, just,
If, to the commission, I feel as though we table it, but I personally am okay with the species change of the red oak. Was that?
The pin oak to a red
To
maple.
the red
Yes.
maple.
I'm personally okay to make that part of the motion, to table everything else, but I see no harm in that species change. I throw it out to the commission before we ask for a motion.
There is a memorandum to myself from Jason dated September 13th. It has a little more detail, and that's one of the top things as far as the species change that you mentioned, pin oak to red maple, and then they talk about caliper size changes, and then the number of trees and the changes there. So I don't know if you want to use that as a guide. That was on the table this evening.
I would, I'd like to
If you need it. I will-
review, get a little more specifics about, since one way or another, we're gonna wind up tabling part of this, if not all of it. Some more specifics about the trees that you're, or the
So let's have a
areas that.
motion first, and then we can give the applicant some guidance.
Okay, I make a motion to table this to the next meeting, which is October 16th, with comments that we'll discuss when we get a second.
Do I hear a second?
Should it be a motion to table to,
He did.
I mean, are they gonna be back on the 16th, or he's gotta go through variance?
He has to go
ZBA?
through variance. We,
Is that gonna be, is he
don't
gonna
do
be able to be
variance.
back on the 16th to go through the ZBA?
It could be continued.
How
It's
about-
just to be continued to a date determined.
To be, yeah, how
To be
about a
determined.
motion to table to a date to be determined once the applicant is prepared to
Seconds.
clarify this?
okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. So now we can talk through the process. Species change, do you want this all encompassing, or do you wanna go one by one and pick through the 3 different items per what Kim said earlier?
My feeling is, why don't we just do it all at once?
Do it all at once?
Rather than seem like we're piecemealing this.
What do you guys think?
I feel the same way, just to keep it cleaner, keep
Yeah.
it all
Okay.
I
concise.
agree as well.
Okay,
The deadline, the meeting is the day before. The meeting for ZBA is October 15th. The deadline for applications and all materials in is September 24th. So, I
with-
mean, it is doable. I know it's a
Possible.
fast application, but
Yeah, we'll see.
yeah.
This poor guy's getting hit with a lot.
So with that information, let's move to vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 No opposed, 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for your time.
Take care. That's caught in the middle of this. All right.
Next thing on the agenda, any other business, zoning enforcement.
I mentioned some of the complaints this evening that we received, and I don't believe there was a report in the packet, so that's something that I will get to you by email. I know that we've had a lot of blight complaints recently. And with the construction sites throughout the town, we've had ENS, erosion control issues. Not so much now because it's dry, so on the other hand, we're getting more dust complaints. So,
Just can't win.
I know. So,
Are the dust complaints from zoning enforcement go out and observing it, or are they from residents?
typically from residents, we've seen tracking on roadways, on some of the construction sites. But the dust complaints are typically from tracking. So, concerning the noise ordinance, I know we have several ordinances that Community Development Services Department as a whole are looking at revising, and the noise ordinance is in fact one of them, so.
Will those ordinances go to a public hearing before they're revised?
They have to, by law, they would have to go to a public hearing at the town council. So first, we have to modify language, get it over to our town manager, who will then either bring it or not bring it to the town council for revisions. And we're talking about roadways, we're talking about sidewalks, we're talking about noise,
On-street parking?
housing standards. Oh, there's a whole,
Plethora of them?
yeah, I have a stack. We have,
Nice.
we have a stack, so, yeah. And we'd like to bring them all, like, maybe in 2 or 3 different times. Bring them in. So,
Anything else on zoning enforcement?
no, unless you have something for us.
You guys have anything for on A? Going to minor modifications.
We had a request, but they haven't submitted their plan yet. It's for a utility cabinet to the rear of the new gas station on the Silestein Highway where Scuba Shack was. So that will be coming in probably next month for signing.
Plan Implementation Committee. When are we supposed to
Yeah.
meet?
We haven't had a discussion.
Meetings.
When are we supposed to meet in the fall? Didn't we have a meeting set for the fall?
The fall hasn't even happened yet.
Well, September is fall for me.
Next week.
We can meet next month. We can meet whenever.
Actually,
I mean,
3 days.
it's gonna be you and I and.
But what are the implications to the POCD and that process if, because we wanted one more PIC meeting before the POCD.
Okay, so October.
Yeah, so we should have something in October. Perfect.
So I'll set that up.
Affordable Housing Committee.
I wasn't able to attend the last meeting because I was sick with bronchitis, so the committee met without me. We're still considering doing a housing forum in the fall to bring in CHFA, probably DOH, and have something maybe in this space to discuss housing opportunities, housing programs that the state has, that CHFA has, to try to encourage home ownership and talk about affordable housing as well.
Legislation.
Nothing at this time.
Do you want me?
Any communications?
Oh, I missed the back of this.
See?
Never miss the back of it. There was something in the packets. Hang on. there's something from the Health District I just want to bring your attention to. At 2350 Main Street, which is what I call the St. Rita's Building, it was St. Rita's Bakery. They actually had an application in to the building department to do what's called like suites development, which they did like solar salons down behind Wooden Tap. And it, so they have several different suites in there, but it's primarily for like hair salons, you know, a one-chair hair salon or nail or whatever, but it's, I wanted you to be aware of it. There's CCM, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, they're talking about resiliency planning, and we had our community resiliency workshop that I know Victor had been invited to.
Sorry about that.
As a planning and zoning commissioner, he served two purposes, P and Z and WFSB. So there was a core team of a few people, myself, fire chief, public works director, Steve Sokolak, community development director and town manager, Jason Scott, one of the engineers. We were the core team that put together a list of possible attendees, which was well attended. There were, I think, 22 people that did attend, from utility companies, state rep, state senator, town manager, mayor. We had several department heads and staff from the town that were there as well, people from the VA, people from the state. So it was very well attended, and they talked about you know, effects of climate change on communities, flooding, heat, hot, cold emergencies. So it was well attended, and whatever that report generates, we'll bring that to the commission for inclusion in the POCD as well.
Nice.
So that, the affordable housing plan, that's all part of it. And I think that was it.
Do we have any bills?
We do now?
Before we adjourn, I'd like to thank staff, IT, for the setup tonight, all the changes we had to do, so nice job. Can I get a motion?
Just one comment first. Tomorrow night, there's a Capital Region Council of Governments meeting from 7 to 9. It's a public hearing on their plan of conservation and development that they're proposing.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's going to be public anywhere, but
Is it in person or
No, they're
via
all-
Zoom?
yeah, they're all on Zoom.
Can we make sure that, that stays on the agenda? Even if there's no report, we ask for the report. Can we make sure that
Yep.
stays on the agenda?
Yeah, that'll be.
Under any other business?
It'll be a
Okay.
short report next month, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, why don't I just add that, I'll add you towards the top
Yeah.
as far as,
As an item, yeah.
Yeah.
Motion
will
to
be an
adjourn.
item. Okay.
You want that, too? Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Thank you, John, and thank you, Ray.
Thank you. Nice work.
Careful what you say.
Yeah, I know, they're still on.
That was nice. I wish all our
We're
meetings
still
was
on.
this quick.
So your mic- so, what'd you do to it?